Alright, so we are finally wrapping up 2021, which has been a pretty awesome year for tech overall. When it comes to gaming, maybe not so much, but when it comes to tech, I think it was a pretty good year. Now, I wanted to finish the year off talking about how the last year has been with the HomePod Mini, which was kind of an interesting speaker to come from Apple. The HomePod Mini is basically a revised HomePod that has been built in a way to be more compact and way more competitively priced. So it's like Apple's entry offer for smart homes. But I don't necessarily think it was made to compete directly against Amazon and Google's offerings. I think it's meant for the person in the Apple ecosystem that already has Apple devices, that wants that cohesive experience. And this kind of fits in, especially if you wanted a smart speaker or you want to start your home kit for your smart home. Now, while that was the original goal, it's still a small smart speaker, and it happens to be designed in a way that I think looks pretty good. It's around the size of a baseball on steroids. It's also wrapped in a mesh fabric that has proven to be pretty durable and premium feeling. On top of the speaker, there's this small touch display that's lit by these diffused tiny LED lights, so you'll see these neat animations whenever you interact with the panel or when Siri is activated. There are also no physical buttons on the HomePod Mini, so no power button, no mute switch, it's all touch controls. And on the space gray version, this touch panel does happen to be a glossy black that picks up tons of fingerprints and dust, and it's just, ugh. Something else neat to mention is the accessories that come in the box. So you get the HomePod Mini, and you get a charging brick, something that you don't even see on the $1,000 plus iPhones. So this would account for 20% of the entire price of the HomePod Mini, because Apple charges $20 for these. Something I thought of after using it for a little while was, why isn't this detachable? This would be pretty sick if it had a detachable cable and a built-in battery, so you could toss one of these in a backpack and bring it on the go without needing to plug it into a power adapter. So maybe in the future we'll see something like that, but for right now, you gotta deal with this long, non-detachable cable. But other than that, that's what you get. It blends in pretty well in different environments or areas you place it in, and I think the design can adapt well. So if it's in a bedroom or an office, it looks good and it doesn't take up a bunch of space. Like, this essentially becomes the aesthetic of any room you place it in. So it's nice that it's small and not super obnoxious. Setting up the Mini is also really simple. I don't think this video accurately catches the scale of how small this thing really is. And once you plug it in, it's basically a pop-up on your iPhone, and boom, you're done. When I first initially set this up, it was actually pretty terrible at connecting, to the point where I thought it was broken. The startup was a little buggy, so I ended up resetting it. After 20 minutes, things began to iron themselves out. Now, having Siri on this speaker as an assistant has been pretty good. It works way better than it did back on the HomePod, where it wasn't as fully polished as it is now. But yeah, asking basic questions feel more ironed out now, and combined with the animations on the display, it's pretty snappy and quick to respond. You can ask questions like checking the temperature outside, other commands like setting reminders, timers, asking it to even find your AirTags, and it'll ping any AirTags you have on your account. So before we get into the music speaker portion of this, which is where things get a bit more interesting, you can actually receive and offload phone calls and even send text messages, which I find pretty useful. You can also connect it to an Apple TV and use it as a speaker or to play something on your Apple TV. And if you have two of them, you can use them to play audio as sort of a makeshift soundbar. Now, what does change the functionality of the speaker is having a service like Apple Music or Pandora, where the services are natively supported and you get a lot of functionality with them out of the speaker. Many people do use Spotify for music, and while it does work, it's basically just streaming it from your phone to the speaker via AirPlay. So you miss out features like asking to play a song or a playlist. Now, a year ago when it first came out, there were rumors that Spotify was gonna get a full-fledged support for the HomePod Mini. Unfortunately and unsurprisingly, Spotify doesn't have a great track record of listening to users when it came to support. It did come to the Apple Watch, but we're still waiting for it on the HomePod Mini. And it kind of sucks not having full support on it. It's basically just like an AirPlay speaker at this point when it comes to Spotify. Maybe in the future we'll be waiting for the ability to do something with Spotify, but right now it doesn't have the support and it doesn't look like it's gonna be coming anytime soon. An unexpected feature that I ended up using a lot more was Beam, which is essentially a handoff system that works because of the U1 chip. So it can detect devices accurately and make this handshake between your phone and the speaker. So if you're watching a YouTube video or listening to Spotify, you can just tap the phone against the speaker and it plays on the speaker. Touch it again, and it plays back on the phone. Sometimes you have to hit it in just the right place to get the transfer, but overall it works. Not always though. I have had more connectivity issues when it came to the beam feature, so it's in and out, not that great, but it works occasionally. Now speaking audio quality, based on the size of the speaker, it really performs well. It gets plenty loud, not loud enough to fill a super large space, but it does so while not adding any distortion and keeping a nice little punch to the bass based on the size of the speaker. Apple does say there's an S5 chip that's supposed to automatically tune your music and make it sound as good as possible, but you can't turn off this automatic tuning. So we don't really know what the speaker sounds like without this chip working, so we're just gonna have to take Apple's word for it. The 360-degree field of sound coming out also doesn't seem to be affected by the mesh around the speaker. Since it's not a directional driver, you get an even field of sound in the room. Vocals sound really clear, and at this size, I think it does beat out a lot of speakers when it comes to audio quality. Especially when you pair two of them together, you can build up a sort of smart home system, and that's where HomeKit comes in. So I think a lot of people are going to opt out and choose Apple when it comes to building up their smart home. And it has nothing to do with audio quality or the assistant, but with privacy. So Apple has a way better track record than Google or Amazon when it comes to dealing with people's data and analytics. So that's probably why you're going to see a lot more people opting for this. People seem to trust Apple way more with their privacy than the other companies. Apple has really tried to make it clear how much they care about privacy, and they go out of their way to keep privacy with the HomePod Mini. From using encrypted servers that don't store information and generating anonymous IDs to protect your identity every time you talk to it, rather than storing that attached to your Apple ID. So if you've shopped for HomeKit smart devices, you know that it's definitely more expensive than Google or Amazon's options. And there's also way more compatibility with those systems. But if you have that web of Apple products already, it fits in nicely. The intercom feature is neat if you need to be an overlord over all the Apple devices on your network and announce messages to everyone. And you still have the main smart features like asking Siri to play a podcast, jot down a note, or ask for directions. It's all encompassed in the Apple ball of knowledge. Like yes, Amazon or Google systems can be cheaper and way more compatible. But after a year since its release, it's a great smart speaker for anyone who wants an entry to start a smart home and already owns an Apple devices and wants a charging brick included in the box. And if privacy is a big concern for you, and possibly the people who live within your home, it is with no doubt Apple has a better track record than Google or Amazon. So yes, this is a pretty good speaker for $100. Are there speakers in that price range that absolutely can beat it? Probably, especially when it comes to compatibility with other smart home devices. Like HomeKit is kind of expensive compared to the Amazon and Google offerings, like I've said. But overall, if you are in that Apple system, I think this is made for you. And it's been a pretty good overall experience. So that's been everything, guys. I hope you guys have had a wonderful 2021. It's been a pretty good year for tech overall. No complaints. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next one. See you next year.